Hey, Joel. So everybody in the comment section wants to know, what type of polishers do you use? Polishing pads? You think you could give us some free 99 knowledge real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. This is by popular demand. I'm going to kind of give you the rundown of what I use. There's an array of polishers out there, an array of polishing pads, and I spent a lot of time and a lot of money on a lot of supplies that didn't work out for me. I think for each individual detailer, depending on the type of work you're doing, if you're doing heavy paint correction and coatings consistently, if you're more of a one-step polish, just, I do a lot of one-step complementary, so a lot of the stuff that I do is gonna be geared around that.
My first question is, someone starting out with polishing, do they need all that?
They do not. You can start polishing. I would recommend learning to polish by hand first. You know, pick up a microfiber towel, pick up a hand polishing pad such as this. This one is actually through Chemical Guys, but there's a couple other, and it's actually made out of the same material as their polishing pads made for the polishers themselves. So these were great. You can learn. You're going to be able to take out some, moderate, nothing crazy, but you'll be able to see a difference if you go through and hand polish a panel by yourself with something like this and a medium compound. So that's how I would recommend polishing, just so you're having an understand of the chemistry as well as the materials you're working with before you get your hands on a tool.
What do you recommend for someone to learn how to polish? Because I'll be honest, looking at all of this, it's a little bit overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and unfortunately, the markets right now, you have all of these different companies and all these different pads, and they're all saying they're doing different things, and there's some things that are being innovated right now that have, different qualities, or you can kind of combine. But I think a lot of the companies are now going to this type of a system where everything is all in one, or they're pairing their polishes with their pads by color coordination, so it makes it really simple, really easy. What I find is the best for a beginner to intermediate is to go with something less abrasive. I like HD Speed when it comes to beginners. HD Speed, it's very difficult to cause any damage. You don't need to expose a ton of heat to it. You're not gonna get a lot of heavy abrasion, so you're not gonna damage anything. Of course, there's always, there's always a possibility of damage, but if you're careful and you're starting out and you're using something like this, you're narrowing the margin for error. So I always stick to that side with a nice soft pad, and then you can kind of play. If you get a soft, medium, and a heavy correcting pad, you'll be able to see the full capabilities of this once you've refined your technique on the polisher. Same thing with this guy and this guy. Okay, so the polishers I have right now, I use all Rupes polishers. So I have the Miele Bigfoot, I have the Bigfoot Mini, and I have the Bigfoot Rotary. Rotary is gonna be for your heavy, down and dirty cutting before you refine out with the DAs. The Mini here is gonna be a 12 millimeter throw, which means that it's gonna have a throw of 12 millimeters side to side as it's rotating. The Miele is going to be a gear driven, so it's fully gear driven, so it's not free spinning. If you notice, this guy here is free spinning. This one's all gear driven. It's not gonna stop when I hit an edge. That's why I like it. I like the full control. It's a little bit harder to handle. If you're not experienced, I wouldn't recommend a gear driven because you can cause a lot of damage. But if you want full control of your polishing capability, you're gonna wanna go with the gear driven most likely. Gear driven is gonna be the combination of the DA and the Rotary together.
So I noticed you got a Rupes brand. Did you start with them?
I didn't. I had a Meguiar's polisher, I had an Adams polisher. Those are more on the entry level end. Now they're starting to have a little bit more pro models, those brands, but I started with those. And I just felt at a certain point, once my technical skill got to a certain level, I was limited on the capabilities of what those machines could do for me. So I chose the Miele. That was the first one I wanted because I was doing boats. I was doing all these other boats, RVs, and I needed something a little bit stronger. The normal DA, when I was hitting corners or doing edges, boats have a curved bottom. If you're not right on, then it's gonna stop you know, the spinning will stop on you. So
Okay, sounds good.
So yeah. So we'll move on to the pads now. The pads, you have light pads, you have fine pads. This is a finishing light pad that I use for jeweling, which is for like show vehicles, or you know, maybe even a maintenance on a ceramic coated vehicle, or even removing high spots. It's a perfect pad. This is probably my most used pad here by Rupes. This is Rupes as well. This is my most used pad by Rupes, the most versatile pad. And this is a heavy cutting pad from Chemical Guys. I actually started using this one because I went through every Chemical Guys pad when I first started, and this one I fell in love with. This one is extremely versatile. This one I find comparable to this guy here. And it's just ironic they're the same color. This is more versatile than most people think. It could cut and it could also refine. When you're using foam, you get more of a refinement in your paint, even if you are using a heavy pad. If you're using something like wool to really get some heavy cut, this is going to be a blended wool, which is a low lint. This one's by PNS here. This is going to give you some heavy cut, and it can finish down too. But if you want that really, really nice finish, you're going to have to go with a traditional foam post polishing with one of these guys. And this is just a 3-inch version. Here's a wool pad for the rotary. So this is like the heaviest that you can get when you're looking to. So if I'm dealing with really, really hard paint, or if I'm trying to remove a coating, a factory coating, or make corrections to something that's extremely deep, I go with this on my rotary. And then I have some microfiber here, and then I have some Eurofibers, which is a mix of wool and microfiber, which gives you the best of both worlds. And then these are just some foam ones that are some foam Rupes that are specifically made for the gear driven.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When will you use this one, and when will you use that one?
So I would use, so this one pretty much took over this one. So I bought these first, and I was using these for quite some time. But what happens is with the fibers, they get gunked up really quickly with the clear coat that's being removed from the vehicle, as well as whatever type of polish that you're using. These guys are a lot easier to clean and blow out with the Tornador. The cells in here tend to open up a lot easier when you're cleaning them. These guys here, you're trying to scrub and you're trying to blow out. But with all of my pads, I buy multiples because I don't like to stop and clean them. I just take it off, go to the next panel. Take it off, go to the next panel. It's a much faster, efficient. Yes, it's more costly, but when you're on a job site, instead of taking 5-6 hours on a polish job, knock it out in 3 hours by having multiple pads.
Got it. And seems like you know what you're doing, Joel. But when you first started,
Yes.
did you ever make any mistakes? Ever messed up a car polishing because it got too hot or something?
Yes. I've made plenty of mistakes polishing. Probably the most crucial mistake I made was I overworked my polisher to the point where the backing plate had gotten so hot that the adhesive on the back that connects these guys here, even on this guy, you can kind of see it starts, over time it starts to break away, because your backing plate here, you can see even here where, you know, the backing plate has melted off.
What is it, like Velcro?
Yeah, they call it hook and loop because Velcro's patented the name, the technology. So yes. So what happens is when this backing plate gets so hot because of the friction and the force and all the gears on the inside, it starts to generate heat on this guy. And then you're generating heat on the surface. So you have the back of the polisher, you have the surface of the paint. Both of them are getting hot. The pad's right in the middle, taking all of that heat and friction. So this part here starts to remove itself. So as I was polishing, I was probably using the same pad for much too long. And I didn't give my polisher time to cool down. So what happened was this whole portion here stuck to this guy, melted away, and the foam part flew off. And I was still on the surface of the vehicle, so the DA still running was smacking against the car. So I pulled it away immediately, but I did cause some damage that luckily I was able to correct. So yeah, you got to be careful. You can, even me as a professional doing this for a long time, there's times where I get in situations where I'm like, okay, I need to calm down, because you get in a zone sometimes when you're polishing. I put my headphones on and you can get out of hand, and you got to remember, okay, I need to switch out my pads. And that's one of the reasons I run with multiple pads. I probably have about 10 of these pads. I probably have about 6 of these pads. But the primary pads that I use are these guys, and these guys. And I have them in all, I have them in 3-inch, I have them in this, I have them for everything, for the whole system. And then my hand pads. But those are my primaries. If you have these guys and you have these guys, you'll pretty much be able to take care of any job that you need. And then of course, if you need heavier compounds, these are gonna be like extremes, you know, where it's just a straight compound and wool pads. Those are for, you know, extreme cases. I don't really use those too much, but it's nice to have them there when you need them, because otherwise you'll be stressing not only the polish, but your polishing pads and your polishers trying to get correction with these guys here. All right guys, so I hope that fulfilled your guys' request as far as polishing and polishing pads and polishers. I tried to break it down and show you guys what worked for me the easiest, the best. I go with a pad reliant polish, and then I just have my go-to pads, you know, medium, heavy, and then, you know, the finer ones, and then ones that are very versatile. So I hope this helped out. Hope it kind of cleared some confusion out there. And if you guys have any questions, you guys could always reach me on my one-on-one consulting line if you guys have specific needs when it comes to polishing and you want more information. So thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.